measure of how it's going to affect the American economy. Do we want to use gross national product, growth in gross national product, as a measure that we track as we look at our efforts to get global warming? Do we want to use job creation? For instance, there are components of achieving the CO2 emissions reductions where in our sector we use energy efficiency as a main component, where there's the potential to create 1 million new jobs over the next decade. Well, do we look at things like that and try to bring together the two components with some measurable goals and objectives? And my view is if we don't, why we really aren't going to do anything that really helps the nation to focus on really the huge macro issues that are before us. So my question then is, what is our responsibility? Who establishes these broader goals? Is it done in the committee or the task group, or do the specific task groups like the energy group come up with the goals? And then how do we deal with the overlap of what's going on in governmental departments?
Dick, I think our original sense of how this would operate would that this task force that Jay and Bill are leading would try to develop a set of principles that each of the task forces could use to guide their work, but that then the task forces themselves would set goals as part of their charter. So if you're on a task force dealing with energy or with natural resource management, that there would be specific goals set for at the task force level. I do think, however, it does bring up an issue, and one issue you do raise that I think we're going to have to keep aware of, this cross-cutting theme, to make sure that we don't get back into silo management of these issues and to make sure that they do cut across. And I think that's where the council as a whole will have to continue to come together to make sure that what's being developed in the area of energy is also integrated with the other activities that are going on with the council. Is that an acceptable path for you to follow?
The president announced the goal, so
Sure.
I mean, that's a given. But the question is, what is our role then, in, or do we have a role even?
Let me try to respond so that at least we don't confuse what I understand to be our committee's work with what you're suggesting, Dick. I think that the council presumably can do whatever the council wants to do in terms of, within some limits as established by our charter, in terms of how we respond to goals set by the administration and what kind of work we might do to suggest alternatives. The kinds of principles that our group is charged with looking at are, I think, are sort of illustrated in this book we were all sent, Agenda for Change, which was a plain language version of Agenda 21 out of the Rio conference. I thought it was a very good piece of work. And then right before page 1, they attempt to glean out of a lot of the work done at the Rio conference a set of principles. While these may not be the principles we would adopt, this is the kind of thing, it seems to me, we ought to present for adoption by the council, on the basis of which then more specific guidelines could be developed to take care of the council's work. And in terms of what that work embraces, which is more what I think you're referring to, Dick, that's a question we discussed at the first meeting, and I guess will be an ongoing discussion of the council as we go forward.
I think it surely will, Bill. We have Ken Durr, Michelle Perot, and Ken Lay on deck.